Good evening. I am the Maven of the Eventide, and who likes books about vampires? So it's been a while since I've done one of these little videos, and I've acquired a new stack of vampire books that I just want to show you and share with you. Excited? This is Skinwalker by Faith Hunter, and I actually had the honor of interviewing Faith Hunter a couple months ago at Con Carolinas. If you haven't watched that video yet, check it out. It's on my channel. Skinwalker is the first in a long-running series she has about this character, Jane Yellowrock, who is a Skinwalker shapeshifter vampire hunter. But there are also good vampires in this book, so it's not just like bad vampires that she's killing, but there's good vampires, there's crime boss vampires, there's sexy vampires, and there's evil, scary vampires. You get the whole gamut. And this is book one of a still ongoing series. If you like urban fantasy, recommended. This is volumes 1 through 3 of the manga of the Saga of Darren Shan, which is the manga adaptation of Cirque du Freak. You know that movie, The Vampire's Assistant, that came out. That's in the Cirque du Freak series. And I am actually going to be reviewing soon the first 3 books, not the mangas, the books of the Cirque du Freak series. And the person who requested that I review those on Patreon actually sent me these books in the mail. So thank you, because I can read the manga and have sort of like visual references that maybe I could show you in the video, because reviewing books is usually just my talking head for most of it. And I like to have things to show you on screen. So after I read these, I'll decide if that's what I want to do, or maybe you'll just have to watch my talking head. Sorry. This is a tiny little leather book. This is an antique. This is The Vampire in Other Verses by Rudyard Kipling, which is a poem, some of his poetry. The Little Leather Library Corporation, New York. And this was a whole collection of little tiny classic books that this company put out in oldie times. I think 1916. So this is an actual antique. And I got this for $16 at a little bookshop in Charleston, South Carolina, when I was on vacation a couple months ago. And they had a whole bunch of ones, but of course I had to get the one that was about vampires. And it's so cute. This is the Vampire the Masquerade clan novel for the Toreador clan, which was sent to me by one of my Patreon patrons who requested that I review it. So that review is going to be coming up in future months. I have not read it yet, so look forward to that when I'm actually going to talk about this in a full review video. And that'll probably be another video where it's just going to be my head talking at you about books and stories and Vampire the Masquerade. If you aren't aware somehow, I am playing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the game, on my channel. I have an ongoing playthrough series. You can watch me and my husband Paul stumble through that game quite hilariously. I think it's up to 17 parts now, if that interests you. And I'm actually playing a Toreador character in that game. So this book is relevant, and I will have that game experience to go with it. I've also played the LARP version of one of the Vampire Masquerade LARPs. I'm not going to tell you which. So I won't be going in entirely blind. Also, I reviewed Kindred the Embraced once. You may have seen that video. So I do have some knowledge, but still I have no idea what to expect of this book. We shall see. This is a book from the Shortcuts series, which is a series of books. This is volume 48 in the series about film theory. And all of the books in the series were all written by different authors. And I think what happened was someone wanted to make this series and then just hired a bunch of people to write the volumes for it. So some are good and some are terrible. And I haven't read any of the others. This is just what I've heard. But this is the one about vampire films. And this book is basically my entire vampire review show in book form, done by someone else, Mr. Jeffrey Weinstock. And I had been researching, I think it was Daybreakers for my recent review. And the paper that he wrote on Daybreakers that's in this book came up online in my research. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. I should check out his books. So I bought this book, and he talks about a lot of other vampire films, like Blade 3 is how he opens the book. So it's not just, Nosferatu and classic films. It's very contemporary stuff. And he has a very modern pop culture association with social issues reflection on what these vampire movies represent, which sounds kind of familiar. Vampire reviews in book form. I haven't read the rest of it yet, but what I've read so far is pretty good. So of the books in this many multi-volume series, the vampire one I can vouch for. This is Blood Fiercely Defended by Heather Sprague, which was sent to me by the author. Thank you very much. I haven't read it yet, but the cover is gorgeous. I love this cover, and it's autographed. Thank you. The sumptuous world of vampires is under attack. Anka has been living peacefully in France for 4 centuries. She has turned away from her warrior ways to take care of the magical creatures in the vampire's care. The gathering is soon, and she is looking forward to the opulent event where all the world's vampires gather to shed any facade of humanity and indulge in any and every desire. In a single attack, the survival of vampires is put in jeopardy. An old enemy has returned and is fighting in a way that is completely new. Secrets lurk around every corner. Even Anka has a secret connection to this resurfaced enemy. This is the Innocent Parasites series by Michelle Moffat, which was also sent to me by the author. Thank you very much. The summary on the back of the first one of this 4-part series is: a parasitic insect disguises himself in human form and infects people with his larva. So a very creepy take on vampires. I haven't read these yet, but thank you very much for sending them. This is the Vampire SuperPAC, which is an anthology. And a friend of mine has a vampire story in this anthology, and there's a lot of stories. You see all these stories here. Over 225,000 words of startling vampire fiction by writers such as Bram Stoker and also contemporary writers. So this is one of those anthologies that took public domain stories and mixed them with new stories by new authors. By new, I mean still living. My friend is not a new author. He's a very experienced author, and here's his story. Cold Hands, Warm Heart by Darren Kennedy. I haven't read this anthology yet. I just got it, so I'm looking forward to it because it looks like there's a lot of good stuff in here. Some classics that are in every anthology, like Dracula's Guest and The Vampire by Polidori, and those. But then a bunch of stuff that's brand new. So this big book is a Golconda Story by G. Hutchins, and this was given to me by the author who actually came out to my book event when I was doing a reading in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Company of Death. That was a few weeks ago. I had a public reading, and he came out to see me at my reading, and he brought me a copy of his book to share, and he signed it for me. So that was really cool. The summary goes: Patricia Heron was an inquiring and intelligent but naive journalist in the fictitious town of Little Tokyo, just north of San Francisco. She witnesses a murder, but then gets drawn into a deeper mystery when the crime is covered up. An addicting new drug, Vitae, is controlling people while citizens across the city disappear only to return as mutilated, partially healed corpses. Her plight increases exponentially when she becomes personally involved and finds her very life in peril. Indeed, she loses her life in a macabre transformation and begins to question her faith, her courage, and her very soul. A Golconda Story follows the journey of Patty Heron as she seeks answers that take her across the globe. It touches upon the themes of what it means to be human, tragedy, loss, hope, sacrifice, love. This novel is the culmination of many years of work. The author resides in Georgia. Oh, this one's so cute. Can you see this? It's a little baby vampire book and has googly eyes that I can read it to my fledgling spawn. It's called I'm Just a Little Vampire. And the back says, I'm just a little vampire. I come out late at night. I like to hide in dark corners and give people a fright. Big friendly eyes will delight children as they read the spooky story about the little vampire. I actually bought this for myself at BJ's. It was so cute. It's part of their Halloween collection. The nice thing about Halloween time is they always have vampire stuff that I can add to my collection. When the Halloween stuff starts coming out in stores, that's usually when I shop for my year-round decor. Not books, but 2 DVDs that were sent to me by the same wonderful person. This one is Ultraviolet, the complete series, not to be confused with the movie, which I've heard is not great. They look like us. They act like us. For centuries, vampires have coexisted in harmony with humans until now. Now mankind has the ability to destroy itself, and the vampires need to control their threatened food source. CIB, an elite government force, has been formed to combat the threat, but when eternal life is offered, no one is beyond temptation. It's supposed to be the vampires meet X-Files, so I'm excited to watch this. And this is Wellington Paranormal, made by the same people who made What We Do in the Shadows, not to be confused with the What We Do in the Shadows TV series. This is the one that's like a spin-off, which I don't even know if it has any vampires in it, but it still counts because it's got the two cops from What We Do in the Shadows in it, and they're hilarious. Looking forward to watching this. These are both non-US DVDs, so they won't work in a regular DVD player, but that's fine. I have a computer, and they were sent to me from afar, from abroad, by a very wonderful person. Thank you very much. Last two books, these are really cool. These are collections of vampire stories that existed before Dracula. So this is a collection of all the vampire stories and things, not all of them, but many of them that either existed before Dracula came along or perhaps even inspired Dracula directly. Dracula gets a lot of credit for being the first vampire story, and it was not. We all know that. We know Carmilla existed. We know The Vampire by Polydori existed. But did you know all these things existed too? I didn't know about a lot of these. And these two volumes were compiled and edited and translated muchly by James Grant Golden. It includes a lot of non-English stories as well, and he translated them all to English. And he split the stories into one book about the vampire lords and one book about the vampire ladies. And he says it's because he noticed that thematically there was very distinct differences between stories about male vampires and stories about female vampires, which is something that interests me a lot. And these books were sent to me by the editor, by James Grant Golden. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to checking these out. These are my newest vampire books. If you're like, Maven, everyone is sending you these books, I too would like to send you a book or a vampire-related thing that I think you would enjoy in your solitude. Well, you can. It's easy. Go for it. I have a P.O. box. The address is in my description. It always is. It's always there. Go for it. But if you do, let me know it's coming because I have to go down to the post office to check it. Thank you to everyone who sent me books and DVDs and everything. My collection, it grows. I also got a new chair. Do you like my chair? Isn't it pretty? I got it at the used furniture store. It was a really great find. It's kind of lopsided. It's like missing some springs down here, so I have to like sit unevenly, but I love it. I could just be relaxed, sassy Maven sometimes. My new chair. It's much less squeaky than my previous chair, so I don't have to worry about editing out all the creaks and squeaks when I gesticulate wildly with my hands. Like, you know, I may do once in a while, not often. This is new. This is the Company of Death audiobook by me. My book. I know I've talked about my book a lot because if I don't do it, who will? But it is now out in audio form. This is the CD version. It's a 9 CD set, but if you don't like a whole bunch of actual CDs, you can get the MP3 CD. Just stick it in your car or just download it on Audible or whatever your preferred audiobook listening device is. It's narrated by the fabulous Tracy Odom. Her teeny tiny picture there. She does a wonderful job. If audiobooks are your preferred listening and you haven't had the chance to check out my book, The Company of Death by Elisa Hansen yet, you can get it in audio form. If you don't like Audible because you're against Amazon, and I don't blame you, you can get the audiobook on non-Amazon formats as well. Just look online. You'll find it everywhere that audiobooks are sold. And the paperback and hardback as well. The only thing that's exclusive to Amazon is the Kindle. My book is a zombie vampire apocalypse book with the Grim Reaper as a main character. So if that sounds up your alley, check it out. And then let me know if you check it out. Tweet at me. I will retweet you. I retweet everyone who talks about my book because shameless self-promotion. Yeah, I know I'm wearing a Phantom of the Opera t-shirt when I'm talking about vampire books. Oh, for shame. Did you know that I have like 120 Phantom of the Opera books? A lot of people ask me if I would make a video about my Phantom of the Opera books, the same way I make about my vampire books, and yes, I will. Soon. Pretty soon. I'll probably put it on Patreon first, exclusive for my patrons, because that's what I do, but it will come out on YouTube eventually. So if you like Phantom of the Opera as much as you like vampires, and if you just like book haul videos and book collection videos, I'll make that. I also have a lot of Phantom of the Opera stuff. I used to be a really serious Phantom of the Opera memorabilia collector. Like, a lot of stuff. I know I talked about my vampire stuff and like the spooky knickknacks and memorabilia that I have on my shelves. So I'll probably make a separate video about my Phantom of the Opera stuff if that interests you. So, if you just want the books, you can watch that in one video. And if you want to see all of my knickknacks and collectibles, I'll do that in another video. So something to look forward to. I love that you guys like to geek out about vampire books with me. Good night.